Hello and welcome to Authors and Dragons Side Quest. I am Joseph Brassey here, doing my first fucking intro to one of these things. With me is Steve. No, not Steve. Steve is not here. With me is Rick, Drew, John, and Bevan. And hi, we're going to talk about D&D today. Yeah, and shit, I think.
And conventions.
Yes.
Conventions, yes.
I don't think we're going to take a shit while we're on the... I mean, fuck it, whatever. If you got a wireless headset, record and shit at the same time. We'll never know.
I'm wearing, I mean, I've got a good enough cord length on my stuff. I couldn't make it all the way to the bathroom, but...
Well, that's why it's called a laptop. Bring the laptop with you.
You know, my wife already accuses me of being cybernetically bonded to my electronics. I might be a bridge too far. It's like, are you literally shitting with the laptop in your lap? No!
I know online poker players who used to do that.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. If you're playing online poker, you better be there every second.
Yeah, this was back in the day when you could make money doing that shit.
But speaking of shit, our bonus action this week is
right. Is that what it's called? Oops.
They've recently announced, and there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot of info on there, but apparently they're going to remake or do another, hopefully not a sequel, Dungeons and Dragons movie.
You know what? Fuck it. Why do another one? Why change perfection? It's Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons is still alive. We can just have Jeremy Irons again.
No, new idea. The entire movie is just Jeremy Irons.
That would be way too good.
It's like
Where's
the
my
Nutty
stack of
Professor, but D&D.
I do want to say, I'm loving Rick having to be the Drew and keep us corralled. It's sort of like my vacation.
Great. It's your vacation, but with more weed.
Now, I think there's a right way they could do it.
I think they go for spectacle instead of a character-driven story, and D&D at its core is character-driven.
Wait, I want to ask Bob a question. Bob, is the right way to do it to make it about critical failures?
Well, I mean, yeah. A right way. But, no.
A right way.
Yeah, I was thinking more, or Drew was going a different direction, but I was just thinking, it's going to be a balance between archetypes of the game but not too far into that, not too corny. Like, oh, I lost 8 hit points. No, not that far. But
Yeah,
you'll have clearly defined, druids and barbarians or whatever, and
I guess one of the best ways you can run with it is to kind of like Drew said, run with the whole fact that character-driven dynamics are the core of the game's strength. So if you get a really good core of people and make it sort of about this disaster case group of, found family who are bonding with each other over many trials. I also feel like another really good way is to lean into the shit that's weird and unique to D&D. So like rather than focusing on a bunch of orcs, throw in some fucking beholders. Give us the mind flayers. Give us the bizarre ass shit.
Joe, I love that you went right up to the exact pitch I want to make for the D&D movie. Because it is exactly what you were going for. Make it about characters, a found family, etc. Because, baby, my pitch is Fast and the Furious meets D&D. And yes, I want Vin Diesel in that motherfucker.
See, I like that because, I mean, if you make it too heroic, all you're doing is just make it essentially a Lord of the Rings ripoff. So yes, and they went too cutesy and too dumb with the first one. So yes, make it about a group of just like mercenary scum who somehow wind up kind of saving shit anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's a lot to be said for just that underdog story. It's like, these are a group of adventurers, and you know what, to be honest, unless you're, like, really big and powerful, in my opinion, seems like most settings kind of regard low-level adventurers as nuisances and borderline, national security threats.
I think that's a pretty accurate way to describe our party.
Yeah, get these fuckers out of here. So yeah, it's like, who does the adventuring job? Either crazy people who have no other options,
the kind of people
who are
the kind of people who wander in a bar and ask, "Do you know of any quests?"
Yeah, basically wander into a bar and go, "Hey, does anyone want me to go fight anyone for them?"
Well, I mean, and I'm going to harken back to my own horn here, but I think, well, something else I'd like to see in a D&D movie, like I think you're kind of just alluding to, is that I would like to see it start with low-level characters, and I would like it to end with them being, only having slightly improved. I think that, what I'm planning for here is a series of movies. And I think if you're Dungeons and Dragons, then why would you not? I mean, if the first one's awesome, then why would you not want to have something to follow that up with?
I mean, maybe that's been the plan with every movie so far, and we've just never gotten that awesome first movie.
But they're not awesome.
Yeah, they've never gotten that launch off.
God damn it! Original D&D movie. Where is my Snails prequel?
Yeah, I was going to say they did make that movie. It was called Fellowship of the Ring.
I feel like there is a lot to. Well, I feel like we've seen a lot of fantasy movies about people who were thrown into quests and stuff, but we haven't actually seen a movie about like adventurer as a job description. This is a thing that people do as their livelihood.
All right. Well, I want to talk about this too. All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned Fellowship of the Ring. You mentioned the first D&D movie, but here's the problem I have with that. That's Fellowship of the Ring is part 1 of 3 in which they save the world. D&D movie, idiots save the world. I don't want them saving the world at the end of the first movie. I want them at a more defined, smaller stakes kind of adventure.
Yes, we killed the kobolds.
Yeah, you want them to successfully survive what they were dealing with and maybe fuck over whoever they were against, but skin to their teeth and then on to the next adventure.
All right, let's say Taken.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Liam Neeson didn't save the fucking world. He rescued his daughter. Awesome movie.
It can be a small story. I mean, the Magnificent Seven is just about saving one town.
Yeah.
You know what would be when it would kind of along those lines actually. Even if you wanted to bring them together with not having your core group of characters being quote unquote adventurers to start, you could go with that great thing at the beginning of A Knight's Tale when William turns to his two buddies and is like, "We could do this." No, we could do this. We could continue doing this thing that we've just done, this difficult, dangerous thing. We could continue to do it, and we could, there's almost your ending movie setup for a series right there, as your characters are drawn together, they do whatever crazy shit the movie demands of them, and at the end they're like, no, you know what, this could actually be a life.
I mean, they could also, just kind of go meta, kind of breaking the fourth wall every so often and kind of winking at the audience. You start off, it's like, yeah, these are my friends. We just happened to meet on the road and decided to adventure together.
Yeah, see, I don't know. That's kind of pushing the bounds of corniness that I wouldn't necessarily want to see unless it went full throttle that way.
Obligatory supporting character going, next you're going to tell me you met in a bar somewhere.
Yeah, I think if you're going to break the fourth wall, you got to go full Deadpool.
Yeah.
Or Gamers The Darkness Rising, the way they did it, where it was clearly characters and you see a little bit of the human side, so when they do all the fourth wall breaking, it feels more natural. Of course this is the dialogue of adventurers in game, because that is truly how we talk to each other at the table, and you're seeing it transposed over this other reality.
Yeah, how awesome would it be? I mean, I know they're not going to, because God forbid Hollywood take risks, but how awesome would it be if they just went full R-rated and just completely delved into the whole that yes, adventurers at their core are kind of scum.
I don't know that that's not Hollywood wanting to take the risk. I mean, I think that could work as a fantasy movie. Trying to make some of that Game of Thrones money, but for Dungeons and Dragons and Hasbro to get behind it, I mean, they want to sell games to kids.
Yeah, that is true.
I feel like you could do a lot. You can do a lot of. I feel like to a certain extent, tone-wise, you could. I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit before, but you could get a lot of bank off of just having a tone that instead of feeling very mythic, feels very down to earth and humorous. Your cast of it's the group of rednecks who have just killed a monster, and then it starts moving again, and everyone goes ah! And shoots a whole bunch.
See, so getting back to what Bob was saying, the problem I see with that is, outside of making it kind of a kids movie where maybe kids go on the adventure and D&D it up. It's hard. I think it's hard to to get that to essentially make it that game movie that you're selling to kids, but at the same time,
you want it to be taken seriously.
You want it to be taken seriously. I mean, technically, I think that's pretty much what the first D&D movie was kind of trying to do.
Snails.
I don't know. I think that with where we are with comic books and nerd culture, I think you could make it without selling it to kids. Because
I think you could do, yeah.
I don't think kids are dropping $50 on a fucking player's handbook.
I don't know, though. I mean, when did you start playing? Because I started playing, like, mid-young teens. And
16.
I was
11. I was 12.
Yeah,
I started playing at 16,
exactly.
so...
I mean, it truly... That's sort of the problem with taking D&D to, like, a hard R, is that D&D has kind of always been for everyone. Like, you can... I know people who grew up, like, playing it with their family. So it would be sort of hard to segment off your market.
Did not happen in the Carolinas.
So I mean, what I'm thinking is, and the problem I see with this is you need a very competent director, competent cast, and I'm not sure that that's going to be attached to this movie, but make it kind of like a pretty gruesome PG-13 like Winter Soldier, where it's you can still bring your kids to see that, but like there's some pretty heavy stuff going down that's probably going to go over their heads and shit.
I feel like you could also get a lot out of taking the same kind of tone route that we're getting from a lot of the good animation that's aimed at teens today. Like Young Justice, like, Voltron, etc., etc. All of these shows that have that very sort of intergenerational appeal. I think you could do a lot with shooting for that range in terms of content.
All right, so
I just want everything to be animated, so that's just me.
Get Kevin Smith to direct.
I've got a counter for you.
Yeah?
Yeah. I wasn't counting at the start. Vin Diesel.
Not as a director.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh hell no.
I think Vin Diesel needs to be in it. He needs to be involved.
Yeah, he also did what was that, Witch Hunter?
Yeah. That's the thing.
Those
movies aren't necessarily good.
Campaign.
But they are movies that very clearly everyone gave a shit. And at this point, I'm kind of like, I don't ever think I'm going to get a good D&D movie, so I would settle for a D&D movie where the creator really gave a shit.
That's why I want Kevin Smith, because he plays D&D.
Guillermo del Toro as the director.
Oh! Especially after seeing Troll
Hunters.
Hunters.
Oh
my god.
Yeah, because there is a guy who knows how to fanboy.
Oh, fuck. That's a good one, Rick.
Yeah. And Troll Hunters is basically the best urban fantasy D&D campaign in show form. So,
yeah,
I mean,
you have the perfect combination there of somebody who gives a shit, like Drew said, but also somebody who's a very competent director, and that is really fucking rare.
Please, guys, give Guillermo del Toro the ability to use beholders in a movie. Just, God, he'd do them well.
Oh my god, it'd be the only person who could. I can't imagine anybody else doing that right.
Fuck the holders. Guillermo del Toro and Mind Flayers.
No.
Let him play with the Tarrasque.
I mean, honestly,
Del Toro's Mind Flayers would scare the fuck out of me.
Yeah. All right, yeah. I'm with Rick, man. I'm one. Yeah, Guillermo is the director.
Vin Diesel has to be in it. Joe Manganiello has to be in it.
For sure.
Yeah.
The chick who played Karen Page in Daredevil has to be in it.
Deborah Ann Wool, yeah. They're all hardcore D&D fans.
While you're at it, put because he was playing in her game, put Charlie Cox in it.
Was Charlie Cox in Deborah Ann Wool's D&D game?
I'm pretty sure he was.
That's pretty fantastic.
And also, that guy can sell the fuck out of a fight scene.
Oh, yeah.
I think at this point, anybody who's in a movie or show with Deborah Ann Wool ends up in her D&D game.
It's true. It's true.
Because somebody was talking about how she was like dragging everybody on True Blood off to play D&D in her trailer or some shit.
Let's throw in Felicia Day to kind of round things out and put in a little comic relief there. Need someone to lighten things up.
And you've basically got the entire Critical Role cast for anyone who wants to have like CGI voiced monsters.
Yeah.
Just you bring them in. They're fantastic.
Will Wheaton has played for as long as I have. I think we both started when we were about 11 or 12.
All right, well, we came up with a pretty damn good D&D movie that will never
With
get
a
made.
cameo by Stephen Colbert.
No, man. Steve. Okay, so what monster does Stephen Colbert voice? There's
He's like the shopkeeper, wizened old shopkeeper fuck.
I can see that.
Yeah.
If you want to go super meta, we could make him be an orc, since that's the part that Tolkien kind of invented, and that's his whole thing, is being an insanely good Tolkien historian.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, now I want Trevor Noah in a D&D movie.
Does Trevor Noah play D&D?
I have no idea, but if we're going Stephen Colbert, then I also want Trevor Noah, and I can't explain why.
That makes sense. Yeah. But we don't want Jon Stewart.
No, yeah, he doesn't quite. He's
kind of a douche.
I say, listen well, Hollywood. When you make this and it fails, we told you so.
We told you so.
Or worse, we get exactly the movie we want, and it's Snakes on a Plane all over again. It's like, wow, we were the only ones who wanted this. Fuck.
just all of us sitting in the theater going, this is awkward.
I don't know, man. I mean,
what is Samuel L. Jackson's role in our movie?
Oh God, I want him to be a foul-mouthed elf.
Oh Jesus, that's so much better than anything I could have come up with.
I kind of want him to be a king.
Fuck.
Just because I want to see Samuel L. Jackson get to walk around as actual royalty. Because, man, he'd throw out some motherfuckers.
or a vampire lord.
Honestly, anything.
Yeah, he could play anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, like I Sam Jackson, it's just, what do you want to be, man?
Yeah.
I would make Sam Jackson a beholder, but then that beholder immediately becomes everyone's favorite character.
Oh, he could voice a great dragon.
Oh, man, that'd be good.
Has he been a dragon yet? That might be something we could offer him.
Have him voice a unicorn.
I don't want to go to the motherfucking Shadowfell!
Fuck you! You ain't no virgin. Get the fuck away from me.
I don't want him to voice something because I want to see him as well.
Yeah. That is. I mean, just multiple things. He plays multiple things.
Let's do it as a one-man show with just Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, even better than an elf. Samuel Jackson Tinker Gnome.
I can actually kind of see that.
Just stick his face on that.
Oh, just have one character who's cursed, and like every person he sees as Samuel L. Jackson, and that way every now and then we can cut to his perspective and just throw Samuel L. Jackson into every role that we want.
That would make it even better if, like, this character is seeing the person who's in, like, there's this, super attractive person who's into them, and he keeps getting weirded out by it. And they cut to him seeing Samuel L. Jackson coming onto him.
Yeah. No, all right, go back to the Tinker Gnome. Now, imagine, like, in his Django role.
Okay, now we have Quentin Tarantino directing this.
Dude, I would show up for a Quentin Tarantino D&D movie.
Yeah,
we'll show up for any fucking D&D movie because we're giant nerds.
That is some truth.
The last thing I saw that was associated with Quentin Tarantino, though, was Sukiyaki Western Django, which, if you have not seen it, it's an amazing foreign film. And I'm sorry that I'm segueing on this a little bit. I have a point, I promise. The movie is like so the base story is Romeo and Juliet, but as a spaghetti western with all Japanese actors who were taught to speak English for the movie so they would have horrible accents.
Where do I go to see this? Because
I can send you a link, like, where you can find. I also have it on DVD. It's called Sukiyaki Western Django, and it's by Takashi Miike. And the movie is fucking amazing. It's got your lone west gunman. It's got the two feuding families. It's got all the Western tropes, but it's all Japanese cast. And at one point, there's a villain running around with a conga line of men in front of him while he has a minigun strapped to his chest, and they're all dancing. It's such a good movie.
It must be nice to have so much money that you can just bring your fever dreams to life.
It's I don't fucking know how. Like, it wasn't Tarantino he brought it to the U.S. But he's somehow vaguely involved in it. But someone just give me give me my perfect D&D movie. Make it like a JRPG movie. This is where I bite my tongue to not talk about Breath of the Wild for 3 hours.
So you're saying that it's worth buying the Switch just for Breath of the Wild, huh?
Shit, yeah.
I mean, that's just true in general, but also Mario Odyssey and so much good shit. However, we should probably wrap up our bonus question.
That is.
I thought this had just morphed into the entire fucking podcast.
Oh wait, were we doing something other than D&D?
Yes, we wanted to talk about conventions.
Oh right,
which is probably the worst segue we have ever done, but fuck it, you know.
All right, cool.
We're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro doing conventions.
Attending them or putting them on? This is important.
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I'd go to either one.
Can we just pretend that any convention Guillermo del Toro goes to, he has this aura that transforms what is around him into something as if he had done it? Because
I'm fat and I have a beard. Can we just pretend that every convention I go to, I'm Guillermo del Toro?
I mean, that works.
I mean, if you can convince people.
Then in Vegas, expect me to follow you around just talking about nothing but Pacific Rim for 3 days.
I mean, we all just kind of expected that.
I'm all right with that.
Can I have Tom Morello follow me around and just play the guitar riff from Pacific Rim?
You have to talk to Tom Morello about that.
That's true.
You could just put the guitar riff from Pacific Rim on your iPhone and play it out of your ass all weekend.
Yeah.
So conventions came up today because we announced A&D Con last week. Tickets for sale now. Go to the page. It is pinned. Facebook.com/AuthorsAndDragons. Yes, we're going to keep plugging this.
Yes.
We'll stop plugging it after the 200th ticket is sold.
Well,
yes.
No, we'll keep plugging it. What's that?
I mean, no, John's right, because that will be all the space we have.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, and afterwards we won't stop talking about it because we'll be bragging about it if it succeeds.
Yes, we will stop plugging it and start bragging. Well said. So A&D Con, obviously fresh on our minds. As we are recording this, Joe and I are out at Emerald City Comic Convention. And then, John, you this weekend are going to be doing...
I'm going to be at North Carolina Comic Con this weekend, because this was supposed to be my weekend off, but an acquaintance in Raleigh had something come up and it was too late for her to get her table fee refunded. So I got a free table at a convention for the weekend, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll load up what I've got left over and go to Raleigh.
Hey, why not?
Yeah.
So with conventions on sort of everyone's minds, we felt like that would be a good topic to go over, because conventions are an interesting thing, as from the writing side, because you really don't know anything about them until you start doing them, and then you learn the very important trick of just ask John Hartness everything.
Well, and you can do a lot of different types of conventions. Like, you could do nothing but major Comic Cons and still go to something like Dragon Con and feel like you've never been to a convention in your life, because you have no idea what anything is about, because it's such a different beast. So, you know, if you're a writer, you really want to do some research before you go to find out what kind of convention it is. The one that Drew and Joseph are at this weekend, it's kind of a big pop culture con, and there's a ton of comic vendors, there's a ton of people selling other stuff, there's some big panels, but, you know, Con Carolinas, where we all were last summer, much smaller convention, much more tightly focused, about 1,000 people, which, you know, that's the line for the shitter at Emerald City.
But I will put it on Carolinas. The second year we did it, much bigger than the first, and I like to think we had a part in that.
Well, that's because we all gained weight.
Come on, we had people. We had people flying in from Seattle to see us.
I know, that's super fucked up, but
that's really weird. I'm like, yeah.
I came home that night and looked at my wife and said, I hope that shit never gets old, because that was a cool feeling.
Yeah. Well, having
But-
someone fly across the country, like, they're from my neck of the woods, so having someone fly across the country to see you in a place literally very far away, like, you could not be farther away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into planning for a convention, figuring out. I mean, I felt like when I started writing and started going to conventions that I had a leg up because I did a ton of conventions in my old life, both as a fan of comic books forever and for my job. I went to trade shows and spoke at professional training seminars all the time.
Well, I like to think that when the rest of us started doing cons, we had a leg up because we just had you to bother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Should we start with maybe like what our first cons were? I know me and Rick are gonna probably have the same answer as authors, not cons we attended, obviously in a non-professional capacity.
All right, well, go ahead. What's yours?
This is first professional con?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So I know I was Contraflow in New Orleans.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, so
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my first.
Same here.
First con, man.
Holy shit!
And let me just say, I am so glad that you guys were there as like con buddies.
Oh yeah.
It's 'cause
There's a
he-
reason that was my first con, like exactly as Rick's saying.
I really highly suggest that people, for your first con, go to a small con like Contraflow. I mean, what, were there 500 or 600 people there?
If that.
Yeah, so go to a small con and take a con buddy. I absolutely
don't go alone.
recommend that for people. I mean, shit, we were all nervous meeting each other because most of us had never seen each other face to face.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say I was nervous meeting you guys. I mean, that was the only thing I wasn't nervous about.
Hell, that was the only thing I was nervous
Yeah,
about.
that was dispelled. That was dispelled in about 2 minutes because I met Drew and I was just like, I can hang with this guy.
Yeah, basically, it was in an easy. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It takes me a few minutes to just like get the vibe of the room, and then I'm good.
Rick walked in, helped me do a keg stand, and by the end we were cool. He did ask how I'd gotten the keg into my hotel room. And, you know, you have to keep some
That's what
mystery.
luggage carts are for.
Yeah, we were in New Orleans for about 5 minutes, and Drew was like, "We all got to do Bourbon Street."
Yeah.
Yep.
I am sorry I missed that one. I wish I had been able to get to.
You would
Man,
fit right in with the cargo short
Yeah.
crew.
Never a
yeah.
sexier bunch has walked Bourbon Street.
I think who was it that called it March of the Dad Bots?
I think that was Emily.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was definitely some middle-aged white guy shit.
Well,
No,
especially
well, I mean, going back to the con buddies, I mean, all right, Contraflow had a blast because I was with you guys, and then I don't remember how much longer it was later, but I got invited to be a guest on in a Comic Palooza in Houston, and I thought, all right, this will be a blast. It's a little bit bigger con, and so I drove the family out to Houston. I did my panels and stuff, but then I was bored as fuck. I didn't have anybody to talk to. It was like,
yeah.
that sucked.
Yeah, I was gonna say my first solo con, which was last year after Con Carolinas, was WivaCon, which is a very small con, but it was actually great because because hanging out with you guys and seeing everything, it kind of actually gave me the confidence to not just show up and just hide behind a table and pray nobody talk to me.
Yeah, that was my first time doing a table this past Con Carolinas.
Oh, okay.
I've attended them professionally before, but I've never and I was at the Angry Robot booth previously, so I've been at booths that were selling things, but this past year was the first time that I had sat behind my own little table space and been like, these are my things, buy them.
Even that, though, is way better. Like, with you guys, I've soloed one table, or maybe two, but it was the kind of experience that, like, at the end, I'm like, well, I'm not doing that again. That was
Yeah, I would have, yeah.
less fun than I would have hoped. I mean, even I've got a booth at Denver Pop Culture Con, and this will be a deep cut for like 3 listeners who have gone this far into the blog and know this one, but I got my friend Ruby to come up, and she's gonna man the booth with me, just so I have someone to hang out with the whole weekend. Because like soloing it is the fucking worst.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, like I think honestly, half the time that you sell well, it's because people are attracted to the vibe of a table that people are clearly enjoying themselves at.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case.
I've walked past tables that were full of interesting shit because behind it was a bored-looking person staring at their phone. It's like,
oh yeah, I see that at especially the small Comic-Cons. I shared a table with a guy at a small Comic-Con about a year and a half ago, and he sat there and he was doing sketches all day and just walked around a lot, talking to other artists. Wasn't at his table, didn't talk to anybody who came up. At the end of the day, he's like, well, this sucked. I made like $35. How'd you do? I said, I did $350 because I was fucking here talking to people all day, and you were face down on your sketch cards, bro.
Well, was that me?
No.
Well, I was going to say, it's like that's also another reason to go with like, people and stuff, because when I'm with people, it inspires me to be well, other than me. Where like John, John, I've seen you work your booth. You got the whole thing. You're reaching out to people, you're talking and shit. And I'm like, I would like to do that, but there's no fucking way I will do that if I'm standing here by myself.
yeah, and I mean, like, it's hard. It is hard for me to hawk to people walking by. But if I can be engaged with people immediately around me, it is a lot easier for me to just kind of charisma draw people, and also not be nervous when people do show up.
And for a lot of people who aren't comfortable calling people from across an aisle, saying, hey, you, come here, buy my shit, which, yes, I have done and will do all weekend, sharing a table with somebody, it's easier to sell somebody else's shit.
Yeah, it is easier to suddenly speak up as an advocate for someone else. You're like, because then you're going, oh, I'm not being a presumptuous asshole. I'm trying to help my friend.
Yeah.
If somebody walks past a table, if I'm sharing a table with Rick and somebody walks past with a D&D shirt on, I'm going to say, hey, your dice fucked up? Come over here. These dice are more fucked up. And then I'll be like, all right, Rick, go.
No, I've seen the same thing, because like whenever we were doing the whole lunch break or panel, let's let somebody else man the table. Yeah, that was the same thing. If somebody came up and like looked at like Bob's thing and was like, what if you and your friends were in the game? What if they were assholes? That was an easy thing for me to jump in and be like, hey, yeah, you're right. It's like selling your own stuff kind of feels sleazy, but like selling somebody else's stuff, it feels like heroic.
Yeah, well, no. When we were at the Angry Robots booth, we would literally trade off, and it would be like, "Hey, what's your pain? Like, this is like two-fisted labor relations in space. This is murder mystery on a generation ship. Oh, and this is cyberpunk ladies punching out the fourth wall. Super quick, super thing. You just get to like be like, hey, here's this. What do you want? What are you into?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that when I do a lot of tables where my authors will pop by for a few hours, and I'm like, all right, you just sit there, I'll pitch to you, and you pick up what I'm laying down. And it gives them a little training, gives them some confidence, lets them get accustomed to the pattern. I mean, it's all a role. You're just putting on a character like any theater role.
Hell, yeah. I don't even drink in real life.
I thought you were talking about diplomacy role. One. Fuck.
Well, no, that's also a good thing. It's like, like I think we've been kind of inspiring each other. Like that first year I was doing my dice thing, and I know Drew, you like took that to the next level with your roll above a 10, and I'll give you like a cozy.
Oh yeah, that was a great inspiration. Like, and it was truly just bored of fuck. Oh man, these things aren't moving. I'm not getting any kind of interaction. Rick had the dice thing. I gotta try that at the next con. Yeah, but I gotta try my own spin.
Yeah, but that in turn, I was like when you said that, I was like, that got me thinking. I was like, okay, I got some shit I can play with for the next one.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. You steal from the people around you. I did a convention in Tennessee, and I saw a bookcase that I really liked on Jason Sizemore's table at Apex, and I'm like, "Hey, Jason, where'd you get that?" And he like wrote down the Amazon description for me, so now I have 2 of them.
Yeah, I think I mean, like, and to a certain extent, the whole term steal is a little dicey here because, like, all art is cannibalistic.
Oh yeah.
We're all like, let's take this thing from this thing, this thing from this thing, mash them together, and think about how it would work if they were all stoners.
Oh yeah.
And really, this is more just best practices than anything else. Like, I stock plastic bags with me at every con where I have a booth, just because John taught me, hey, that's something you're going to need a lot, and not many people have it, so customers tend to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I have gotten plenty of sales just by motioning somebody over who looked like they were about to drop their shit and say, "Here's a bag." And then while they're standing there putting their shit in a bag, then they notice book covers, and I may or may not have profiled them and seen that it was fantasy paperback books that they were carrying, and let the 5 people with artwork pass on by because fuck them, I don't sell art. But yeah.
John is the master. He's the guy in the frozen north selling the ice cubes to Eskimos there.
Yeah, well, I do have a YouTube series specifically about conventions.
But my friends, have you considered that my ice will fit more efficiently in these trays?
Why should you have to wait for the ice to freeze? I've got frozen ice right here.
So, truthfully, when we talked about doing cons on this episode, there was a little bit of we just like turn John loose and we all go, I don't know, crack a beer, come back in 15. I have a strong feeling a lot of this next segment is going to be John's advice getting parroted back at him. But I was going to say, if you had to give an author who was going to a convention like one tip, one thing, what would it be? Like, I'll use the plastic bags because neener, I got here first. The plastic bags would be one. Like, it's a great fucking thing that you would never think of unless you've been to a con and seen that pain and had someone like John point out, hey, those are not expensive and they are very easy to keep on hand. So let's let John go first so we don't all steal his shit.
I'll tell you what, I'll go last and I'll try and make sure I come up with, because I've done more cons than all of you put together, so I've fucked up more things.
John, back cleanup.
I have one, and this is one that I still have yet to follow and keep having to remind myself I need to get on. Business cards. Just like with your fucking name, on it. It can have a number, it can have an email address, but honestly, the best business card I've seen, which is proof because I still remember it almost 2.5 years later, was I was talking to Sarah Gailey at a party, and she, I was like, oh, hey, do you have a website or anything? And she just hands me her business card, and it just says Sarah Gailey with her website. In the back, it just said expert. And I'm like, shit, that's good. And 2.5 years later, I still remember it.
Yeah.
Joe, that's such good advice. I literally went and got my business cards out of my bag because I forgot to take them out, and I haven't been taking them around with me.
I'll expand on that. And this I got from Rick. Magnetic business cards. Brilliant. I've got Rick's on my refrigerator here in the garage. Nobody visits me, but if they did, it's right there on the beer
if they did in your garage.
And every time you go out to get a beer,
if they visit me, they're going to be in the garage because that's where.
Well, that was my thing. It's like bookmarks and stuff. Those are things you keep. I was like fridge magnets. I was like, I have fridge magnets that aren't doing shit. But if you give me a fridge magnet, it's going up on my fucking fridge.
Right.
If you go and of course now, if you go to Bevan, every time Bevan goes to his fridge, he goes, Rick.
Now I got mine in a place of reverence over Rick's, so I look at that one.
Well, okay, I'll transition over.
But Rick gave me the idea.
What I was doing at first, and this helped for the minor shit, because everybody's like, well, I know to bring books and stuff. I know somebody had asked me a while back, and I was like, just do a mini setup at home, like, if you have a table or so, and you will just see all the stupid shit that you've forgotten. It's like every time I go, it's like, okay, I think I got everything. Oh, nope, I need tape. Oh, I need like paper to to put up my price list. Make a list and then do that setup and see all the shit that you're missing from that list that you just made.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I did it today and took pictures of it because I'm changing my setup for this weekend. I want to try something different to add more verticality. So I have multiple 6-foot folding tables in my house because I do a lot of cons. So yeah, I did a mock setup today of my table and took pictures so that I remember what it looks like tomorrow when it's time to set the fucking books up.
Yeah, that is a good one. Take pictures, because I've done the same thing where I was like, how did I set that up?
Uh-huh.
I had to go through my Facebook page and be like, come on, I know I posted it somewhere.
This is the single most important piece of advice I can ever give you about going to a con, whether you have a table or not. And it will only be important when you fucking need it. And until the day you fucking need it, you're going to think I'm an idiot. Imodium.
Imodium?
Yep.
Is that the one that makes you poop or the one that stops you
Nope.
from pooping?
That's the one that stops you from pooping.
Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah.
I knew it was either a starter or a stopper.
No,
Plug
it's a
yourself.
Oh yeah, I understand that one.
There's also depends.
Yeah, but Imodium makes it less smelly.
I don't know if I would call this a good habit, but I have a habit that I have developed from conventions of just not drinking practically all day.
I have an opposite habit.
Yeah, I literally have a glass of wine in my hand, and I also just slammed like a quarter of a bottle of edible. So, opposite tactics.
I was going to say, Bob has that industrial cooler that will survive a nuclear war.
Yeah, I would suggest that people go the opposite direction from Brass's
don't do that.
suggestion, because
It's bad.
dehydration is...
It'll drop you.
Yeah, it'll fuck you up. I carry an empty water bottle in my con box that has my swag and my book stands. But fucking book stands. No flat stock. Flat stock is the fucking devil. Stand your shit up.
Now, but don't worry about book stands, because, John's got some extra ones.
John had some extra ones until last Con Carolinas, when I stole 3 of Rick's that he still has never seen again.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Nick, who was one of our guest DMs, he was at Con Carolinas, and I was leaving early, and I let him borrow mine, so he still has the rest of mine. I think I have one right now, but that's okay. Fortunately, because thanks to John, I have actually one of those big, I think 3 or 4 level book stands.
Yeah, that's what I need now, because I'm getting so many more books. I feel like a sucker for buying all these little shitty single book stands.
Oh, well, if you want one of those, Bevan, I'll bring one down to JordanCon, and you can have one of my extras. Because I don't use mine anymore.
Why not? What do you do?
I have bookshelves that I set up now.
Wow, we literally just got to see Bevan's advice be proven
walls.
right. Don't worry about it. John will have some extra.
I have 2 wire book racks sitting in boxes in my office right now that aren't being used this weekend, plus 2 4-foot and 3 6-foot folding tables.
We really, when it comes to conventions, we really are your personal charity cases.
But speaking of business cards, Vistaprint.com has a 50% off sale right now of 5 specific products, one of which is business cards.
Right now when this airs, or right now when you're talking?
Oh, fuck the listeners. This is for you guys.
I'm really tempted to go with kind of like Joe's example, and instead of just saying like what I do, just saying it's like Rick Quiltieri to comment, and you turn it over, I write shit.
I haven't figured out what to put on mine yet, but which is part of why I haven't done it.
Robert Bennett. Fuck
Positive
you.
masculinity barbarian.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
What
I kept
else?
mine really simple. Villains foiled, tall buildings left, dragons rehabilitated.
Mine's boring now. My old personal business cards. What the fuck did that say? Asses kicked, bubblegum chewed.
Nice.
That's
Why'd you get rid
good.
of
That's
those?
solid.
Because now I have to be all pseudo-professional and it says publisher.
Oh, right. Publisher.
Since I'm responsible for chunks of other people's income now as well, it is just me that shit's on brand, but that doesn't work for all of my authors.
Oh, that reminds me. I got to get mine redone because every what if my my cover artist does this on purpose? But every time I go to her and we do a rebrand, I have to re-update my business cards.
I was gonna say how much
Why?
graphic design shit do you guys do for yours?
I took a piece of stock art and threw text on it. I do next to none.
I got
Yeah,
my logo.
I keep mine real crisp and simple. It's just white card, text, and the Thunderpair logo.
Yeah, I mean now it's black card, white text, and the Falstaff goblet in the corner, and just John G. Hartness, publisher.
Yeah, I've got the magnets I ordered 500 of them, and I got them with my little with the logo and then the text. What if you and your friends got to live the game for real? What if you and your friends were assholes? And those are fun. I put those in. When somebody orders an autograph book, I'll stick one of those in the book, and hopefully it'll go in their fridge. But then I do these products too, my dice and dice bags and shit, and I thought, well, these cards they're pretty cheap to get made, and I could just put one of those in with all these products. But then I thought, I'm selling them on Amazon. If somebody complains about the word assholes or something, then that could affect my product. So I'm gonna get some more made, friendlier.
But no, you're right, because I've seen your metal dice show up on pages that have nothing to do with you. Just randomly looking for dice. I'm like, those are Bevan's dice. If I want those, I'll buy them from Bevan.
Yeah, I'll admit I keep my Team Twatwaffle buttons usually behind the the table there.
Yeah, I mean, and that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at displaying cover art. You're looking at getting big posters made of cover art. You got to keep it kind of family friendly, and you need to keep it PG because.
No, I got the same thing on my table runner. I was gonna wait until somebody gave me some shit about it, and then I'll put a picture. I'll tape a picture of Jesus over the offending word or something.
What if you and your friends were in the game? What if you and your friends were our Lord and Savior?
just like
what a Bevan way to deal with it. I love it.
Why don't we just call it the emergency Jesus?
I love that you've never gotten shit for that, but I once apparently got some people very grumpy about a joke display thing I had that said, "Will quote unquote not trade books for drugs."
You got shit for that?
Apparently, I think it was Rick who was manning it. I might be remembering wrong. Sorry if I'm putting this on you. I think you were manning the booth when people came over and were making an old person fuss about it.
Yeah, they were kind of just being assholes.
Yeah.
Was that the same con where they said Rick looked rapey?
Are you sure they weren't talking about me?
I'm not.
I don't even know if they were sure who they were talking about.
I mean, if you don't read the T-shirt, it's hard to tell in person, guys.
I'm going to let Rick take the heat for this one.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
I mean, it could really be anyone who happened to be wearing the turtle shirt that day.
I will admit, I've gotten a little bit of side eye because what is one of my books called? Goddamn Freaky Monsters, and it's amazing. Some people are okay with fuck, asshole, all that stuff, but the second you put that on there, they're kind of looking at you like, boy, we got a problem.
All right, that was a lot of good con advice for everybody.
I think so, yeah.
So I have a feeling we're going to have a big amount of overlap on some of these, but it is just a good window to tell some enjoyable stories. Favorite con memories?
You know something? Con Carolinas last year was so awesome for me because, you know, it just I mean, not to kiss your guys' ass because it's always cool to see you guys, but I saw like, you know, I mean, like 3 of the mods from my group, like, you know, from my Facebook group were there. I met so many like, you know, like readers and stuff that I know from online. It was really hard to just get. Oh, and then of course that first night, Bevan and I were just standing there bullshitting in the lobby, and that a couple like, you know, like sticks their head around the corner, like, yeah, we're from Seattle, we came to see you guys.
Yeah.
Last year's Con Carolinas was pretty much like an entire weekend of good memories.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
I'll
good
agree
one.
with that. I'm not even worried about kissing your asses. I mean, I get like one opportunity a year to hang out with people I like, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Con Carolinas last year was fantastic. But I will tell a story. It was my first year doing Dragon Con. I think it was the first year I did big room panels at Dragon Con. And I was on a comedy writing panel with, I mean, it was a fucking rogues gallery of people who sell more books than me and a couple of other mid-list guys. But I mean, S.M. Sterling was on there, Kevin J. Anderson was on there, and Jim Butcher was on there. And I was sitting to Butcher's right, so as we were going down the table, I got to talk first. So the question was asked, what is a problem that you solved in your last book? And Sterling was like, well, I had to restart the Orient Express. And David Coe had some real hefty history problem that he had to solve in one of his historical fantasy problems. And I said, well, in the last Black Knight book I wrote, I had my characters promise to bring their Goblin Market guide back to their world. But when it was time to do that, when they left the Goblin Market, I forgot about it. And then when I was doing revisions, I was like, shit, I've either got to take a 3-foot-tall talking lizard back to the mundane world, or I've got to come up with a really good reason for him to want to stay. What would make him want to stay in his world? Ass. So I look out at the audience, and I'm just like, I had to figure out real quick how to get a 3-foot-tall talking lizard laid. And I looked to my left and said, follow that, Butcher. So mic dropping Jim Butcher was one of my greatest con accomplishments. And fortunately for me and my standing in the urban fantasy community, he took it well.
Con Carolina is fucking fantastic both years. I don't want to retread all ground, so I'll tell a different one. But yeah, I mean those are the best. Like even the first one, I look back super fondly on. Like year 2, also awesome, but like that first one where because that was our first time all together. We hadn't had Steve at the first one. I don't think Joe was in New Orleans. No, Joe wasn't.
No, I
New
wasn't.
Orleans.
No.
So yeah, like that was our first one all together. It was fantastic. But okay, so different than the Con Carolina stories. Yeah, there's no way to say this one that doesn't feel like a little bit of trying to slip in a humble brag, but it was just a cool experience, so I do want to talk about it. Rose City Comic Con was kind of unique for me because it was the first time I ever showed up to a line of people waiting for me. Because I was crashing at the Roots booth because I had signed up way too late to get my own. And they were very gracious, and they allowed me some space there, but I didn't want to, overstay my welcome and be helping people shit the whole time. So I was like, all right, I'll come by at, noon. So I go in, I stop for coffee. I'm, 5 minutes, past noon, not really thinking about it, because it wasn't a situation where it was like, yeah, I should be there by noon. It was like, no, I'll just be there around noonish. And I show up, and there are several people lined up waiting for me. And I was like, oh, fuck, I really should have taken that noon thing more seriously. But also, it was oh, wow, that's an amazing feeling of coming to a con to see the readers and having the readers turn out so much so that they're like lined up ready to go at the time you're supposed to be there. And that was a fucking amazing moment. And I really loved it. And I also felt like an asshole.
If you're only 5 minutes late at a big con, it's that's pretty good. I mean, you weren't 10 minutes late to a panel.
I feel like you're loading up for
I mean, I completely missed them. And last year at Dragon, I looked at my schedule and I was like, I can't get from the Hilton to the Westin at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon at Dragon Con in 30 minutes. It's not physically possible for my fat ass. So I just got somebody to cover a panel for me so that I didn't have to die.
Jeez. Let's see. I mean, Con Carolina's last 2 years obviously were fucking awesome. That was that was one of my like fondest memories of a convention. In terms of just out of the sort of like I very difficult to imagine myself in this position, but now I'm here and it's awesome. This past Worldcon, I was able to attend George R. R. Martin's Hugo Losers Party.
Nice.
That was
cool.
That was a fucking party. There were dancing robots. There was a whole shitload of dancing, and there was an open bar. Like nobody paid for drinks, and there was a gigantic table. It was like 2-level table that was entirely desserts.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, like everyone. It was funny. Everyone was clustering around the bar, and I'm standing there. I think I was hanging out with Fonda Lee, and we were just hanging out at the bar. Everyone was at the bar, and we're just hanging out at the dessert table, going, "So, how are we going to die?"
Yeah, John, you and I would have had a tag team. At like one's getting desserts, one's getting booze. We meet up, trade off, go get in different lines.
Yeah, it's just like I'm just gonna power up. There's a related at NorwestCon at the room parties upstairs. When I'm able to go to the room parties as a guest, I always go up there because part of their like catering setup for the room parties is a chocolate fountain with cream puffs next to it.
Oh.
And I'll just go up there and I'll be like, yeah, I live here now.
Although that brings to mind. I mean, the ones at Con Carolinas were okay, but that even though Contraflow was a small con, the room parties there were fucking insane.
Yeah, they had, like, games and shit. Like that was rad. Oh, Rick, great one. The panel you and I did where we had to pretend to be our characters for like a dating game show. That was so much fucking fun.
I heard about that.
Rick was Turd.
Author's dating game.
Yeah.
And Drew was Fred.
Yeah, I had to be Fred, and I ran up and I like changed and I like put on a sweater vest and everything. And it made me slightly late, and I think the host was pissed at me until I committed to my role. It's very hard for me to play meek for so many reasons.
Oh god, that was great watching you because it was almost like it was close to a physical transformation.
If I knew that shit was coming, I would have gone to the panel.
I was
sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, we were talking about room parties, and I was going to mention one more thing. At Oricon, there is this party at Oricon. It's in a small room, and I guess it's there every year. It is entirely people in dark leather. I'm not entirely sure what the background and culture is of this, but they have a bar. They have their own bar full of their own drinks, and they serve something called a butt stallion. And that
don't leave us hanging.
Yeah.
Okay. So it tasted like cotton candy. If cotton candy was 110 proof, it just kind of like it's kind of like a really sweet, delicious fist in your face.
Joe, you had me at cotton candy 110 proof.
Yeah, I know.
It's to knock it down.
Fist.
They're like, butt stallion, and I drank it, and I'm like, they're like, do you like it? I'm like, I have no idea where I am or who anyone here is. I wandered in looking for snacks.
That's the best kind of trash can punch.
Is worst con experiences going to be a segment?
It is now.
It can be, yeah. Go for it.
Well, no, I think that's worthy of a segment. So I'll,
No, I think we can all probably come up with something.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So I won't do that now. But I want to say my maybe not my best, but one that was memorable for me was at Contraflow when I was on a panel, and it was me and Cruzy and some other people, and this one guy was, I don't know how I got onto the topic, because he was just saying how it was something about comedy writing, because that was the whole topic of everything. And this one guy, another white guy, is just going on about it, like how persons of color and oppressed people, we had no ability to be as funny as they were, because all the suffering they've suffered and yada yada yada, and I just said, I don't know, man, I'm funny as fuck.
Oh boy.
God, I wish I'd been there for that.
If it was a person of color saying that, I would have kept my mouth shut. But it was just
Sure, it was some fucking white guy.
Yeah.
That's like.
I might not have kept my mouth shut. I don't know.
No, you totally wouldn't have.
Well, I guess on a similar vein, because Bob, you and me were both in it, and it's not like, and the people were awesome. Like Faith Hunter was in it, and Janine Adams, like both people I really like, but that censorship panel that we did.
This is why I brought up the worst moments. Yeah. I was gonna get into that.
Let's transition into worst moments. Fuck it, let's go. You guys tell this one, man.
Run it, Rick.
Well, Bob and I were both in this censorship panel. We're thinking this is going to be fun, because we both.
I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
Well, no, we were both thinking that, hey, they're going to talk about, hey, is there shit you shouldn't talk about? And we were just going to be like, fuck no, we write about whatever the fuck.
All right,
we want.
that makes sense now. Now I feel a little less stupid for signing up for that.
Yeah, and instead it transitioned to like tragedies, like like child endangerment, and and all these like heavy things, and like Bob and I are sitting there like, God, this hour can't end fast soon enough.
Awkwardness is intensifying. I was on a panel actually this past Con Carolinas. I think I've vented at length to all you guys about this, but there was this moderator, and it's the panel is me, someone whose name I don't remember, but even kind of a smaller fish than me, the moderator, and Shannon McGuire. So, room is full. Nobody should have any illusions about who they're here for.
Right.
That's just, fucking how it goes. And that's like how panels like that are supposed to work. It's like big name person brings their audience. Newer person gets exposure. Boom. But anyway, I don't remember who the name of the moderator was. Which is probably good for their sake. But Jesus Christ, they would not shut up. Like, she started talking. Okay, so this is on research for world building, right? This is something Shauna knows a lot about. This is something I know a lot about. And this lady just starts talking and talking and talking. She does not ask us any questions. She just starts explaining the idea of research on an existential level. She's getting existential with this shit. She starts talking about the submissions guidelines of her own magazine. And then, and at this point, I think I watched Shauna literally sit down and start doodling. She just started doodling, and I'm going, oh, fuck, dude, your MVP has checked out. And I ended up having to say, basically, excuse me, are you going to let us talk? and that, jarred her enough that we could start talking, and then we just didn't let her talk for the rest of the panel.
Smart, because I was on a panel with that same person. Again, I don't remember her name, but the next day. And the funny thing she did there was, I forget even what the panel was. It was something not particularly interesting. At one point, she's like, well, I have a handout that illustrates this. And she's like,
oh, God, yes.
She hands it out to the crowd. She's like, I only made one, so pass it around, and I want it back.
What the fuck?
Nothing annoys me like Kings of Tiny Kingdoms.
Dude.
On the one that I was talking about, yeah. When she's like, okay, so I'd like to talk about world building now, and let's start with the definition. She reaches down into her bag, and she pulls out a textbook-sized pile of printed paper. She thumps it down on the table in front of her with a thud that shakes the table. She picks up the first chunk of it and says, "This is a Safwa essay about world building." And she starts reading.
Well, I thought
That was when I was like, "Excuse me."
She pulled out this huge ass dictionary and said, "Merriam and Webster define."
That would have at least been funny.
That would have felt like a
at that point, I was like, "Are you going to let us talk?" And then someone, thank God, because I was like, I'm sitting here going, "White guy talking over female moderator, yay!" And I said that, and then someone from the audience is like, "Yeah, let them fucking talk."
I did a
way to go,
panel,
audience person.
I did a panel probably 5 years ago at a con, and it was one of the intro to self-publishing panels. And as I was walking to the panel, I ran into Scott Nicholson in the hall, and we were chatting, and I was like, "Are you on this panel?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, you should come up, because I'm pretty sure you've outsold everybody that's on the panel," because Scott was moving a lot of books that year. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention. I'm sure he's still doing just fine, but he was a pretty hot commodity that year. So we walked up. He came and sat in on the panel, and the quote-unquote moderator, she had, unfortunately, more than one copy of her handout.
Oh, no.
It was about 8 pages long,
No.
and it was her outline for the entire panel.
Fuck,
where
people
she thought she was teaching a workshop.
Oh, no.
God, I love the
About the
self-importance.
30-minute mark, a woman in the first row of the audience said, "Okay, we want to hear from the other people on the panel."
Yeah, seriously, what's the point of having a panel if nobody's going to talk?
Nobody comes to a con for a homework assignment. Right.
Well, I mean, some people do. I guess John said
sure.
that's what a workshop is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but not at a panel.
Right.
Definitely not a Oh boy! All right, I've got one without a tyrannical moderator for a worse one. I've got an almost empty audience. I think it had to have been Contraflow, but Sunday, right at the near the end, last panel kind of thing. And I rolled in and I sat down and I had to check my schedule. I was like, "Fuck, is this the right place?" It was a Superman panel. It was a discussion about him, and I'm just sitting there, and the one other dude of the 5 of us who were supposed to be there comes and sits down. The moderator doesn't show at fucking all. And we just kind of look at each other. It's
I know what panel you're talking about.
So 5-minute rule. If no one shows up, he's like, yeah, definitely. And then, God bless him, 3 people came in and sat down, and I just. If it happened now, I would probably just scrap it and take cues and just have a general discussion, or probably fuck off. Be like, all right, this is obviously not happening. But this was in my younger, less confident days, and so me and this other dude just bravely gamed through 50 minutes of talking about Superman by ourselves. And to be fair, it was a pretty fun discussion, and kudos to the 3 people. They were engaged and they asked pertinent questions. But man, it was just it was a real why are we all here moment.
I had a panel at a small con about 3 years ago. It was an 11 p.m. panel. Now, that's prime bar time. I don't like doing panels after 9 because, well, I'm old and I got drinking to do. So at 11 p.m., I'm on a panel about horror movies. If you paid attention to our Tournament of Terror, you'll know that I don't really watch horror movies. So I don't know what the fuck I was doing on the panel, but I showed up. And there were 6 people on the panel. And at and at 10:59 there were 4 people in the audience, and I said, "Hey, we're going by equity rules. If there's more of us than there are of you, we're fucking off to the bar." And 3 people walked in right at the stroke of 11 o'clock, and I was like, "God damn it!" And there was a woman on the panel who I've been on multiple panels with, and she is incapable of actually answering the question presented to her.
No.
Oh, yeah. She'll start making a factually inaccurate answer to that question, and then diverge into some bizarre story that has no relation to anything we've discussed on the panel at all. I had to move away from my friend Jason, who was walking with a cane that weekend because he had a concussion and needed a little extra balance. And I said, "I can't be next to you." He said, "Why?" "Because I'll take your cane and I'll beat her to death with it."
I was going to say with Drew, at least you had somebody to talk about shit with. It was actually similar. It was the last day of Contraflow, and I was in some panel. Maybe 5 people showed up, and most of the panel did not show. I think like one other person showed, and he had to leave early, so it left me with this other guy. And this other guy was like, I guess he was a comic book illustrator.
Slow down. All right, this is not the one with me then.
No.
Because I was going to talk about that one.
No. This guy was some comic book illustrator, but he muttered under his breath, and 2, every time a question came up where I was like, all right, because I don't want to just sit there and talk over somebody, but he would just mutter under his breath and answer a question that nobody asked him, that apparently only the voices in his head asked. So as a result, I had to end up talking over this guy because he just going off. Like somebody be like, "Well, what do you think about it was about like the WB's like DC shows," and somebody be like, "Well, what do you think is better, like Arrow or Flash?" And he started like be like, "In college, I took a philosophy class, but except the audience couldn't hear him because he was muttering, but I couldn't." I was just like, "Dude, nobody asked you that question."
I'm going to kill you and feed your corpse to dogs.
I was like thinking, I was like, did some homeless dude walk in here to get like warm or something? Just
Pigs. Feed the corpse to pigs. They'll fucking eat anything.
I actually have a funny, kind of a painful booth selling story. Not really even a story, just kind of an unfortunate. We were we were doing a booth a couple years ago at Emerald City, and we were across from a guy who was he was hand selling his comic books. So he's by himself. So God bless him. That is not easy, but he had the most unfortunate voice for that job.
Oh.
So for like 5 hours, we're right across the aisle from someone going, "Wanna buy my comic?" Over and over. And I was just like, "Oh, dude. Oh, you do not have it easy."
Yeah, you gotta learn to play to your strengths and around your weaknesses. It's why the real Drew Hayes hired me to represent him when it matters. You'll never see him, the ugly son of a bitch.
The actual Drew is a large slug-like creature who resides in a warm place.
Oh yeah, my God!
Yeah, there's a reason. Like, you meet me, I'm gigantic, and it's like, no one this handsome wrote Fred. This is bullshit.
No, see, here's the thing: you take off your shirt, and like your middle section is like Krang from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's the real Drew Hayes.
So angry brain.
I had a panel one time where one of my fellow panelists said, "Well, my spirit animal is a banana slug. So I exude horrible bodily odors to ward off vampires."
Ooh, okay.
This was in response to the audience member who was dressed like a Van Helsing cosplayer, the movie, not the TV show.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't a costume. That's how he dressed.
All right.
And he had asked us, the question was phrased like this: "Well, I'm a vampire hunter, but I'm just getting started. And what do you do if you think your neighbor is a vampire?" I'm on this panel with James Tuck and me and Denny Upkins and Banana Slug Man. Now, Denny is one of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever been on a panel with, and James Tuck is my brother from another mother with more tattoos and less hair. So the three of us look at each other like,
there's a man contemplating murder in front of us.
All right, we're just going to go. And Denny looks over at him and says, dude, stitches get snitches. Snitches get stitches. Shut the fuck up. And Tuck's like, I move. And I'm like, I don't go outside at night. And Banana Slug Man is, well, my totem animal is a banana slug. So I exude horrible bodily odors to ward off predators.
Stop. Truth be told, I could easily see Bevan saying that and laughing my ass off in the exact same situation. Like, because that's just an insane thing to say to an insane question.
Yes.
And like, if there was anything in your voice that made me feel like it had been played for comedy, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see that. It's like, fuck you, I'm not going to take this seriously.
If there was anything in that panelist's voice that made me think it had been played for comedy, I wouldn't be telling the story.
Oh yeah, that's.
I'm glad you guys read the room, because, like, you know, if I wasn't paying attention and somebody had asked like the Vampire Slayer question, like, yeah, kill that motherfucker's ass, and suddenly went up as an accomplice, you know.
Oh no,
They bring you in for questioning. I never encouraged him. Yeah, kill his fucking ass. Oh god damn it, YouTube.
Why'd they have to tape it?
You need to understand that nothing said on a sci-fi panel should be taken seriously. Except for the stuff that is.
Yeah, other than buy my book.
You know what though? I'll to turn around from to bring it to like weird audience shit. I have a rule after having had, you know, gone through that newbie moderator thing several times, where you have some jerk off in the audience who stands up and goes, you know, you call on them and they're like, okay, not a question, just a comment. And
Next.
then, yeah, no, and like my default for rolling with that now is, yeah, well, we're taking questions, not comments.
Nice. I heard a great tactic that some moderator had used and people were talking about is pass out note cards that people can write questions on at the top, and then don't do a Q&A, just have your moderator or an assistant like filtering through and picking actual good questions, and then at the 10-minute mark they start doing the questions from the note card, so you don't have to even risk the just a comment thing.
Yeah, and that
That's
also
really
cuts
good.
down on. That would also probably, I would think, help with some people who want to ask questions but have like crippling social anxiety.
Yeah. Like, it's truly like, if you can get an involved moderator, I mean, that's the fucking trick, though. It's a great option.
The
And
best
staff.
The best dunk I've seen on the question comment thing, though, was apparently like Sam Sykes was on a panel and someone pulled that from the audience, and Sam just responded with, "I'm not backing your Kickstarter, bro."
Not a question, but your mother.
Not an answer, but your mom.
Yeah, those people are the worst, because you just know they're going to stand up and they're just going to ramble and nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
Speaking of the worst, I wanted to bring up the panel that Rick was too kind to bring up. Also, last day of Contraflow. I think most everybody, you know, including the panelists, had gone home, and it was just me and Rick. And do you remember this one, Rick?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Yeah. I felt bad because I don't know. I mean, maybe you think this guy's a genius and he's so funny, but sometimes I get tongue-tied, and so it was just me and Rick on a panel, and yeah, people were shooting questions at us. I didn't know what the fuck to say, so it was just Rick carrying the whole thing. It's like, Bob, you got anything to add to that? Nope. It was like that for an hour.
You know something? Muttering guy, I think, was after that, and I think like that was fine. But like, you know, I think muttering guy was bad enough where I was just like, yeah, at least you're being truthful. You're just saying, yeah, I don't have anything to add, as opposed to just going off on some crazy tangent.
Ah, shit, if I were you, I'd have much preferred muttering guy. At least he was killing time.
I don't know. Soloing something isn't entirely terrible. Actually, that is a good transition into final topic, which is just sort of a fun thing we can run through of favorite, con traditions, whether they happened by chance or things we do intentionally. I'll kind of kick off with the segue one, which is the meetups. Actually, Emerald City Comic Con is the first time I'd ever done one of these, and Joe was there with me. We put it together. We didn't have a lot of panel time and we didn't have any table, but we knew people had come out to see us to get things signed. So we set aside a chunk of time in a location slightly off site of the convention. That way everyone could come, even if they hadn't bought a ticket. And we just hung out for a couple of hours. Like we talked, we signed some things. We did it again the next day. Yeah, it was a fantastic time. And ever since then, I've implemented them every time I'm at a con. In fact, when Vegas Con Fusion, that was the name, folded, since I was already booked for Vegas, I just did the meetup anyway, because I love the meetups. They're an awesome time, and we're doing one on Saturday. 1 year anniversary of when we started them. Woo!
Yeah, that's gonna be a blast. I think I actually have more time this year, because last time when we did the first one, I had to run to a panel almost right away. Yeah. But
my advice to anyone who wants to do them out there, team up with somebody if at all possible. I've soloed a few meetups and it's a lot of fun, but like by the end I am completely wiped out, because that is like 2 to 2.5 hours of just all attention on you, and it can, even when it's a great time, it's just still a lot of energy.
Yeah, it burns a lot of the soul. And also, if you can avoid it, like, depending on who you are, like, I don't know that I could do one of those alone.
Yeah, I am an extraordinarily social person, especially for a writer, and it taps me to do. So I would always recommend, if you possibly can, have another writer, have a friend, maybe, just like have something there, someone else there to kind of take the heat off as needed.
Not only that, but you get to leech off their fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but what you're saying, it's like going with other people. It's like that's what, like, I know myself, and at Contraflow and Con Carolinos, if I was there by myself, my modus operandi is, okay, done with the con, go eat dinner, and then hide in my room for the rest of the night. So the fact that, like, you guys have been at these things, kind of like, I'm like, all right, I don't want to leave them hanging and stuff. Let me go out and, like, actually go to these after con parties with these guys and actually wind up having fun.
It's kind of more just wanting to hang out with the friends, and then the parties are a cool place to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel that.
I agree with that. Another tradition: spill a cooler full of beer and ice.
I was hoping someone was going to say this.
I think I've done it every A&D attended con we've done. I mean, it was Contraflow. As soon as I walked into the fucking lobby to check in, boom, cooler goes down, ice and beer everywhere. And then Con Carolinas, was it the first? Yeah, the first time.
First one you did it twice, because for a year we kept saying you were 3 for 2. You had spilled 3 times at 2 cons.
Oh, so, all right. Well then, I guess nothing happened at the second one, but yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you wiping out on the escalator counts.
I fell down the escalator
that
backwards.
Definitely counts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we did our live show, and I hit a bump with my cooler and spilled beer and ice all over the wiring for the shit. Yeah. The sound shit.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Fucking hell.
Back.
I don't have any because I do too many cons, but at one particular con that I do 3 times a year, it's the Charlotte Comic Con. It's a 1-day event. Me and some friends have started a tradition of we go to the same Mexican restaurant after the con, so we all do the show, and then we meet up at the Charonda for margaritas and lots of chips and
Yeah, room parties are kind of a tradition for me, and they're always better with some buddies. Just
Yeah, I honestly can't. I have a hard time doing room parties because I'm a big dude, and so it's hard to move around. And I've only got about half the hearing in my left ear, so crowded areas, it's impossible for me to hear what anybody's saying. So tight spaces with a lot of people are really uncomfortable. So I don't do room parties very much.
Yeah.
I sit in the lobby a lot because I can set up my space so that all of the people are on my right side, or I can see their mouth move. But yeah, room parties aren't my thing. I know a lot of people love them, but
I like wandering them. I don't tend to stick long around because, again, it's an enclosed space.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, going out to food with friends, at the con, like finding your the group of people that you're most comfortable with and stuff, and just going out and digging around the local culture. Find me the hole in the wall restaurants.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like last year's Con Carolinas because I think it was Drew most of the days because he's up early, but then that last day it all caught up to you. So then Joe and I we went to that that toast
famous
place.
toastery.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think I was also at the toast place.
Oh yeah, that was. I remember we went up and we ran into. I do remember that dimly. I remember all of us sitting there just kind of like, I should have thoughts and emotions, but
not.
See, breakfast is fun for me because it's fueling up for the day. That's like psyching myself out for a day ahead.
Yeah, breakfast is going to be wild for A&D Con because my ass is going to be awake at 4 a.m. So by the time you guys are all up and like, let's go to brunch buffet, I'm going to be fucking lit. I'm going to be going for a few hours.
So basically, what you're going to be like getting up, getting high as fuck, and then
also drinking. Yeah, I mean it's Vegas. Yeah. Listen, people are coming for Authors and Dragons. You want to give them the authentic experience.
I mean, I might be up at 4 o'clock in the morning too, but it just depends on how the poker tables are going.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
it's more. I'm just gonna go down to blackjack, and then what happens from there.
I was gonna say the authentic brassy experience generally involves me either being boring in my office or hitting people.
I was upset. My wife might be coming to Vegas, so like a lot
Same.
of I keep telling her I'm like a lot of what we do probably depends on how hard you ditch me to to go do the slots.
I mean, like, I'm probably not going to do a ton of slots, but I will happily wander around and watch people do shit.
Yeah, I never like the video poker as much as like I just like to lose $100 at a craps table at some point in Vegas, and that's. I know I'm going to lose it. That's my gambling money. I've put it aside. I've made peace with that goodbye. And I love playing craps. It's fun. It's energetic. It's fucking kinetic, especially when you're on a hot table. And I ride that money as far as it will take me. And that's my entertainment budget.
Yeah, video poker was just strikes me as such a loaded game.
Oh, I did hear about a fucking stupid move that also tempts me a little bit. Like maybe in a few years, if we keep doing this and we all get a little more successful, when you go to Vegas with a group, you all like get together, you all chip in $100, you throw it down on the pass line of a craps table, which is roughly 50-50 odds. I know the fucking actual gamblers out there are going to lose their shit about a 1%, but and then you let it ride. And so it's like one person, like if it's a bachelor party or a birthday, the birthday person like gets to place the huge ass bet. And then if you win, you have to spend all the money on a fancy ass meal. Oh. And if you lose, you go to fucking Shake Shack.
All right.
Like I'm not quite throw 100 away that easily. Like at least craps I make it run for the whole time. But like that'd be an interesting move if you were at that place financially.
I've done events in Vegas where we got enough people there to have private poker tournaments.
Oh damn.
Yeah, it was back in my poker blogger days, and we had 120 or so poker bloggers, and we had a private tournament. at Caesar. We did it at Caesars one year. We did it a couple of years at Aria. That was a lot of fun because we did stupid. Everybody brought a bounty gift, so whoever busted you out got your bounty.
Huh.
And the stupider, the better.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should.
I won a poker tournament once where I was part of the winners when we decided to quit and split it up, and I was that douche who, like, you know, three rounds earlier, it's like, oh well, shucks, all right, so long guys, and the dealer was like, hey man, you got a straight. So, oh shit, awesome.
I played the noon poker tournament at Venetian one day. There were like 110 people in it. We chopped the pot 20 ways when we got down to 2 tables. We're just like, fuck it, we've been playing for 7 hours. And I was like, I'm hungry, motherfuckers.
Can I tell you something very bizarre
up?
about the Venetian? I've never walked in there and found my way back to the same entrance. I always get lost in that motherfucker.
I can only find the poker room. I have
the
no
only
idea where anything else is.
It's the only thing that exists.
Oh my
It's
god.
a really nice poker room.
Well, while we're talking about Vegas, is probably a good place for us to wrap this up.
Yeah, by telling everybody to go to Eventbrite and search for Authors and Dragons Con 2019 and buy their fucking tickets.
Or just go to facebook.com/authors and dragons. It's still our pinned post. It's probably going to be our pinned post for a while.
Yeah, either way,
them
you look at
Until
it,
we sell 200 tickets.
we've had some good con. I think all of us have got some good con experiences, but you could be a part of the next one.
Oh, and we didn't really talk about this when we did the promo because we didn't realize it until afterward.
I was about to bring this up. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hand to God, we did not plan it this way, but apparently the fates have smiled upon us. A&D Con will have the live episode that will also be the 100th episode of Authors and Dragons. And no, we're not counting side quests, like actual episodes. It's fucking nuts, but that's how it shakes out.
They 100% believe we didn't do it on purpose because they know we're not that fucking organized.
That's yeah. We have the credibility of being irresponsible.
I say all the pressure's on Drew to make sure it doesn't suck.
Well, good luck me.
Well,
Oh man, yeah, that's a good point. That probably wraps it up for Side Quest. Please go buy tickets. Come join us in Vegas. It's gonna be a shit show of fun. Can we have that as the tagline?
Shit, yeah, I love
I
that.
think we do
Shit
now.
show of
Shit
fun.
show of fun.
There you go. All right, we'll see you next week on a regular episode of Authors and Dragons. Until then, bye.
Bye.